Here it is for the one only Rue Black, a BTC Maxi turn BSVer. Why would he do this? Who is it? Well, it's this guy.
It's Reggie Middleton. So,
yeah,
guys, I do a show on the Gentlemen of Crypto Network. The top two guys are King Bless and Bitcoin Zay. Bitcoin Zay has a best-selling book, Bitcoin in Black America. So these guys are traditionally Bitcoin maxis, you could say. So it's very interesting to hear them talk BSV. And the guy below is Reggie Middleton, the owner of the patent for DeFi. So all of DeFi is his patent. And there's some controversy over that. Who's right, who's wrong, I don't know. But as far as it seems to me, Reggie seems like a straight shooter. He seems like a very intelligent guy. Could he have written the patent? I would think so, because he definitely seems like a very smart and intelligent guy. So I could see that it could be his patent. So that's the background. And what they're going to start talking about is basically what's going on with BSV, what could be a Bitcoin being BTC Black Swan event. And this is what they're going to be talking about. And I'm going to speed it up, do it at 1.5 times speed.
People want to know, hey, do we park it in Bitcoin? Or if I don't have enough for a whole Bitcoin, where can I put my money to get enough? That is the discussion that's going on. We have to cater to it. And I mean, it's a real discussion. Things are pumping. People bills are being paid right now. Rent's being made. Mortgages are being had. Cars are being bought. And vacations are being taken. All right. So people want to know where to go. So that was pretty interesting. You're talking about Craig Wright and Craig Wright's Bitcoin ETF. He just filled something out for a patent, or he has a patent on it?
No, to be honest, well, first of all, I don't do price talk. But, just to address, if you can't buy a whole Bitcoin, it's irrelevant. That's like, not being able to buy a whole $1 million. So if someone gave you $999,999.99, would you not take it? So it's irrelevant if you buy a whole Bitcoin or not. If you believe in the asset, then purchase the asset and purchase as much as you can prudently afford, given risk, reward, et cetera. I'm not going to get into that. So, but, the nominal amount of Bitcoin, whether it's 1 whole, 1, 2, et cetera, is absolutely irrelevant. It's like water. You're going to drink a whole quart of water. You thirsty, you drink water. Okay. As for Craig Wright, I threw Craig Wright's name. I did the video. I put it up on my YouTube channel. I use his name as just clickbait, to be absolutely honest. He did write the patent, but Craig Wright is so emotionally charged and people are so in their feelings that, they either love or hate him. They don't even know why they love or hate him. Much of the hate to Craig Wright comes from the fact that he's published or he's derided by the media. But take a look at who owns the media that derides him. And then take a look at the patents that he wrote and who they affect. And I'm not a Craig Wright fan. Don't get me wrong. The dude can be a little rude, okay, and disrespectful, but so
he mentions that Craig Wright wrote patents. So again, this whole patent background is kind of in the backdrop of what we've already been talking about today, based off of Swift's patent, right? So if someone wants to do cross-border payments via AI, they're going to need to use Swift or pay them for the use of that technology because of their patent. So that's still in the background, but now it's being applied to BSV. Let's continue.
Okay, most of the guys in crypto,
that's true. That is very true.
So I don't favor or disfavor him, but I'm a strong believer of fact and primary source research. So with that told, I'm going to start putting, and I'm not going to speak on my own portfolio at all. Okay, and I have a lot to say on that, but I'm not going to speak on it at all. Okay, I'm going to start dropping dimes that are going to turn this industry apart. So I started with the patent that Craig Wright wrote. N-Chain owns. N-Chain, if I'm not mistaken, was Craig Wright's IP holding portfolio. He sold off a majority share of it to a fellow Australian named Craig Ayer. I don't know how to pronounce the name. He appears to be, a billionaire that got his money from online casinos and gambling. Again, I don't know that to be a fact. It's also irrelevant. Who the players are, what their names, and how they made the money is irrelevant. What's important is the actions. Okay, there's a patent that N-Chain owns for multi-party computing. That's how Coinbase secures ETFs for cold storage.
Yeah.
Okay. If that is patented and they're not paying license fees, that technology doesn't belong to them. It belongs to somebody else. The most successful ETFs in the history of ETFs is the Bitcoin ETF, led by BlackRock, supported through cold storage, technology that is not owned by the custodian that's using it.
So that's huge. I'm going to kind of replay that. But according to what Reggie just said right there, it sounds like to me that Craig Wright owns the patent for like the whole ETF of Bitcoin. That's what it sounds like to me. Craig Wright and N-Chain own the patent for Bitcoin ETFs. Can't write this stuff up. And then he's going to go into later that also the way that BlackRock wrote their ETF paperwork, they could decide which Bitcoin they can choose to be Bitcoin. And I'm sure you guys have covered that on here about BSV, right? But let's just go back here because what he just said was extremely important.
The patent that Craig Wright wrote and Chain owns, and Chain, if I'm not mistaken, was Craig Wright's IP holding portfolio. He sold off a majority share of it to a fellow Australian named Craig Ayer. I don't know how to pronounce the name. He appears to be, a billionaire that got his money from online casinos and gambling. Again, I don't know that to be a fact. It's also irrelevant. Who the players are, what their names are, how they made the money is irrelevant. What's important is the actions. Okay, there's a patent that Enchain owns for multi-party computing. That's how Coinbase secures ETFs for cold storage.
Yep.
Okay, if that is patented and they're not paying license fees, that technology doesn't belong to them. It belongs to somebody else. The most successful ETFs in the history of ETFs is the Bitcoin ETF, led by BlackRock, supported through cold storage, technology that is not owned by the custodian that's using it. Think about that. Okay, and everybody's worried about whether Craig Wright is Satoshi. Who the hell cares? Let's suppose he's not. Let's suppose he is. That's highly irrelevant. It's highly irrelevant. Okay, Enchain. Now I said that's a patent, very critical patent. Enchain has over 3,900 patent applications pending. 3,900 patent applications, all in blockchain and DLT. They have 1,090 issued patents, actual patents that were issued, all in blockchain and DLT. Even if they have 90% superfluous dust.
So that's also very important too. So Enchain and Craig Wright have all of these patents pending on blockchain. So that's really bullish for BSV, and this is coming from the guy who owns the DeFi patent, by the way. So let's continue.
Immaterial patents, the 10%. What are the chances of an exchange running its entire business on this technology not tripping several of those patents? Very slim. And we're not going to discuss like those 12 brothers in Brooklyn. We're going to totally disregard that. So much of this industry is already patented and owned by a group of people, a group of entities. Okay, a lot of those entities are part of the crypto club, so they purposely will not turn on each other until, of course, enough money is at stake. Then, capitalism.
And we already kind of saw some of that crypto club already with Swift and Draper buying into Coinbase, and Draper buying a piece of the Silk Road Bitcoin from the US. So we can kind of almost think that Draper is one of the players that is kind of in the in crowd, if you will, for crypto patents and crypto stuff. And there is that question of that other patent that Fidelity owns through the same girl who owns the Swift patent. That would be something for us to look at again. But let me go back a little further here and replay that and continue. We'll continue listening.
All in blockchain and DLT. Even if they have 90% superfluous dust, immaterial patents, the 10%. What are the chances of an exchange running its entire business on this technology not tripping several of those patents? Very slim. And we're not going to discuss like those 12 brothers in Brooklyn. We're going to totally disregard that. So much of this industry is already patented and owned by a group of people, a group of entities. Okay, a lot of those entities are part of the crypto club, so they purposely will not turn on each other until, of course, enough money is at stake. Then, capitalism and U.S. history starts to form. But until that point, they have their clubs and their corporates and everything else. But what do you think happens when the holders of the other IP who are not part of the club either get attacked or when they get paid for their IP? And I can tell you now, in my opinion, some of the most ingenious inventions were created by people who weren't members of the club, didn't have access to the $30 or $40 million of venture capital to get started, or just didn't have access to the media because the media is owned by the members of the club. So this stuff has been going on in the background for some time now, and I am going to throw grenades into the punch bowl. It's called the truth. Okay, and anything I say, I'll provide a link. Just take a look at it.
You can apply what he means when he says members of the club and members of the club own media. So you can apply what he means by certain members of the club aren't members of the club, and certain members of the club own the media. And I'm just gonna say that Kanye said something similar. I'm just gonna say that, okay?
I know the reference. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So you can kind of imply what he means there. But let's go back in that. And you could also include Reggie in this club of people who aren't in the club because he owns the DeFi patent, right? And is, suing, right? So he knows intimately about not being a member of the club, right? So let's go back and continue.
Have their clubs and their corporates and everything else. But what do you think happens when the holders of the other IP who are not part of the club either get attacked or when they get paid for their IP? And I can tell you now, in my opinion, some of the most ingenious inventions were created by people who weren't members of the club, didn't have access to the $30 or $40 million of venture capital to get started, or just didn't have access to the media because the media is owned by the members of the club. So this stuff has been going on in the background for some time now, and I am going to throw grenades into the punch bowl. It's called the truth. Okay, and anything I say, just take. I'll provide a link. Just take a look at it, read it yourself.
So Reggie, Reggie, let me ask you. Somebody asked me the other day about if there was some sort of black swan event that could, crash Bitcoin or crash the price, so to say. And I told him it's probably going to be Coinbase. This bull cycle. Was I correct in telling him that it was Coinbase? Because it's part of what you said, but also too, like you said, I've heard other people talk about the patents that they use for ETF for the cold storage that they're going to have to end up paying at some point. That could be a black swan event for people that they don't see it coming at all because it's the biggest exchange.
Yeah, well, it should. Bitcoin is not really fundamentally driven, so it's a bunch of bots trading. So I can see that crashing Bitcoin price temporarily, but the reason it will crash is because they're bots trading. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fundamentals of what Bitcoin's worth or what it can do.
Of course,
it's people chasing price action. Okay.
They said that before the show. Is actually when we were talking about it. He was like, "Man, these what coin was that? Terra." He's like, "Man, this Terra bots buying Terra Luna."
It's just bots. People don't realize that. They think it's actual dudes behind the computer pressing buttons. Like, no.
Not even close. Those days have passed. Years, many years ago. But you have to understand there is no major technology industry sector or subsector that is not driven and ran by patents. As a matter of fact, usually the more patents you have, the more money is involved. Let's look at some of the biggest. Look at Apple. For those.
There's not anything that isn't driven by patents. That should make you even more bullish on the Swift patent that we just showed you. And this is coming from a man who wrote the DeFi patent, right? That should just make you like bananas crazy about Swift right now.
Wow, man. Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic research.
And let's continue playing here. All right, let's go just a second back.
Of course, it's people chasing price action. Okay.
They said that before the show. Is actually when we were talking about it. He was like, "Man, what coin was that? Terra." He's like, "Man, this Terra bots buying Terra Luna."
It's just bots. People don't realize that. They think it's actual dudes behind the computer pressing buttons. Like, no.
Not even close. Those days have passed. Years, many years ago. But you have to understand there is no major technology industry sector or subsector that is not driven and ran by patents. As a matter of fact, usually the more patents you have, the more money is involved. Let's look at some of the biggest. Look at Apple. For those who use iPhones, I'm definitely not one of those people, but if you use an iPhone, right, iPhone has over 1,200 patents embedded in it that they use. Does Apple have a problem making money? You have a problem using or accessing iPhones. Samsungs, which are much more intuitive and much more technology with folding screens and 200 megapixel cameras, they have well over 1,200 patents embedded in it. You think Samsung is starving? You're having problem getting phones? The virus for the COVID, mRNA, okay, and the technology behind that, gene splicing, CRISPR, the light, the telephone, all this stuff is patented, right? You can tell when there's not a lot of money involved because people aren't moving to patent things and they're not inventing things in that space. When you get a lot of inventions in the space, it moves the space along faster, and when you have a lot.
He's right about all he said. I won't mention what I'm specifically talking about, but everything he said is right.
People want to protect their inventions, so they file for patents. So your open source mentality, patents are bad guys, don't know their financial history, are ignorant, or they're basically trying to shoo you away from patents because they're too busy patenting things. Okay, so just to put that, so this is not going to have anything to do with Bitcoin. Now, BTC price, that's a different story. Okay, in the video I put up, I should have been a little deeper. If you look at the risk disclaimers in the issuance papers for BlackRock's ETF, they go through what happens if the market believes that another flavor of Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin versus BTC, okay? Or if IP pressures, and they don't go into this, but I will. I didn't do it deep in the video, but I will. Suppose that N-Chain has said, or representatives of N-Chain has said that they will favor users of BSV, which is their version of Bitcoin, which is a fork from BCH, Bitcoin Cash, which itself was a hard fork from BTC, the original one. And BTC itself did a hard fork when it did SegWit, segregated witness, which is a technological change. Just to go into the history for nerds, if N-Chain enforces its patents, okay, it would be more expensive to do business if they favor BSV, which I believe they will. Okay, they say if you use our chain, a lot of licensure would be embedded in the chain. Okay, but let's suppose they do that or they don't. If they enforce their patents, just transferring Bitcoin would be more expensive. Okay, if you use BTC versus transferring BSV. Okay, they can use their patents to put a lot of pressure and having BSV adopted. If that's the case, then the Bitcoin ETF that BlackRock has launched, what does it hold? What did it buy? BSV or BTC?
Sorry.
BTC.
Oh, you're saying which one they're going to hold as the real one? Oh, I get what you're saying.
So what he just said there is huge. So if InChain decided to enforce their patents on Bitcoin, then that could make things very hard for BTC. And that could make things a lot easier on BSV because the patents would be embedded into BSV. Okay. Huge, huge. And he also mentioned, which I'm sure you guys have gone over on here, how the BlackRock ETF is written. It's written so if they believe that the public has changed its mind on what is actually Bitcoin, i.e. BSV, then they can move to that instead of BTC. Coming from Reggie, that's extremely huge. It's extremely huge. And I just want to play that one more time, please.
Okay. And the technology behind that, gene splicing, CRISPR, the light, the telephone, all this stuff is patented, right? You can tell when there's not a lot of money involved because people aren't moving to patent things and they're not inventing things in that space. When you get a lot of inventions in the space, it moves the space along faster. And when you have a lot of inventions, people want to protect their inventions, so they file for patents. So your open source mentality, patents are bad guys, don't know their financial history, are ignorant, or they're basically trying to shoo you away from patents because they're too busy patenting things. Okay, so just to put that, so this is not going to have anything to do with Bitcoin. Now, BTC price, that's a different story. Okay, in the video I put up, I should have been a little deeper. If you look at the risk disclaimers in the issuance papers for BlackRock ETF, they go through what happens if the market believes that another flavor of Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin versus BTC, okay? Or if IP pressures, and they don't go into this, but I will. I didn't do it deep in the video, but I will. Suppose that InChain, and InChain has said, or representatives of InChain has said that they will favor users of BSV, which is their version of Bitcoin, which is a fork from BCH, Bitcoin Cash, which itself was a hard fork from BTC, the original one. And BTC itself did a hard fork when it did segregated witness, which is a technological change, just to go into the history for nerds.
And that also makes me think of something. Nobody exactly knows kind of how things went down with Terra Luna, but what if there was some type of like big Terra Luna like short of Bitcoin, right? Because there's speculation that before the whole Terra Luna thing happened, there were shorts put in. So somebody made tons and tons of money from shorting Terra Luna, right?
I'm glad you brought that up because that actually was mentioned when that whole thing went down.
Yeah. So what if this is like what happens with Bitcoin and BSV ends up being the real Bitcoin?
Oh my God.
Now, I'm not trying to say, guys, go sell your Bitcoin. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the possibility exists. So why wouldn't you own any BSV? That's my thing. It's like, okay, if this possibility is out there and we know how important patents are, why wouldn't you own some BSV?
You know, can we, I'm gonna use this analogy. You know, I always try to put things in layman's terms. You could be a person that's totally against BSV because you're still one of those guys that's like, Craig Rice is charlatan. I'm never getting involved with that. If you think about it, that's being emotional to a sense. Hear us out, right? We're not, at the end of the day, trying to convince you anything. We're just trying to share a point of view. But I look at what Rue just mentioned. If we have insurance policies on our home, insurance policies on our car, our assets, right? Our top priority assets, insurance. You should look at this as like kind of like an insurance policy. Do you want to take that chance on like what Rue just mentioned? Like it could be the next big black swan event. Now we're not trying to create fear for you guys. Please don't interpret it that way. Just providing you guys information. Do with it what you will. But for me, I don't want to take that chance. And if I was a guy who was a BTC Maxi, and maybe I'm like all my eggs are in one basket, if you will, that would bother the living hell out of me. I'd be like, you know what? This is my insurance policy. I need to take a step back and analyze the situation and say to myself, if I believe in insurance, and most of us do, that's why we're insured. We hope to God that we never have to, file a claim, right? But that's the whole point of insurance. Insurance is designed for you're just that. You're insured, right? In worst case scenario. Well, is this a potential worst case scenario? And I think Reggie Militant and his crew did an excellent job of explaining it. And thank you, of course, to our brother Rue here for getting into the deep dive content and bringing it to us. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. Yeah, go ahead.
I think we only have about I don't know how you are with time, Max, but I think we only have about 7 minutes of this video left, which I only think I'll comment in between a little bit. So we've got about like 15 minutes left.
Oh, no worries. Go ahead.
Okay.
Chain enforces its patents. Okay, it would be more expensive to do business if they favor BSV, which I believe they will. Okay, they say if you use our chain, a lot of licensure would be embedded in the chain. Okay, but let's suppose they do that or they don't. If they enforce their patents, just transferring Bitcoin would be more expensive. Okay, if you use BTC versus transferring BSV. Okay, they can use their patents to put a lot of pressure and having BSV adopted. If that's the case, then the Bitcoin ETF that BlackRock has launched, what does it hold? What did it buy? BSV or BTC?
BTC.
Oh, you're saying which one they're going to hold as a real one? They're going. Oh, I get what you're saying.
Well, what have they purchased? They purchased what, $10 billion or what?
I haven't looked, so I can't confirm because I haven't looked back. But what
Okay,
the word
BTC.
is, yeah, what the word is Bitcoin though.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, everybody. Now, Bitcoin is like an overarching, technology. Because remember, don't believe Gary Gensler and SEC, right? These are not securities. This is technology. This is software. That's what it is. Okay, so Bitcoin is the software, and you have different flavor, different forks. BTC, BCH, BSV, BS. You understand what I'm saying? So, that was a joke, but you're not laughing. BS. You're gonna have to laugh. There we go.
I'm over here doing research in the background, Reggie. I'm just another Trump talking. Stupid Trump is out there for the DJs out there. That's Trump.
Okay, so if these patents or they win the copyright suit, which I'm not taking that seriously because copyrights mean nothing relative to the patents. Okay, if they have enough force to give BSV the nod, then these $10 billion of tokens that BlackRock, et cetera, purchased are worth a lot less than anticipated. So what Bitcoin is or adopted, the flag position, the pole position of Bitcoin can change depending on market sentiment, depending on legal pressure, et cetera. And the reason why there's a lot of risk there is because you've been convinced by people from New York that this technology is an investment in securities. It's technology, period. Go back to the internet days back in 1993, right? Would you make more money purchasing IP packets, internet protocol packets, which is a little bits of information that allow this conversation to happen through the internet or sending emails? Or would you make more money owning the actual technology itself, the internet? If you own the internet, everybody using the internet owes you money. Facebook, Amazon, Google, the whole nine.
And that point that he made there about owning the IP or the patent for IP, again, should make you hugely bullish about Swift because they own the cross-chain patent via machine learning. That's like everything, right? Cross-chain patent via machine learning or AI.
And guys, if you're just tuning in, he's not talking about Swift as in like he's talking about the Swift coin with Swift blockchain. I just want to, for all those just tuning in.
Yeah, thank you, Max.
No
so that's huge, guys. Huge. So I'll continue here.
Or you could trade internet packets back and forth.
So the question is, though, my thing is, this is where it's like the 2 + 2 = 4 and all of it makes sense. But the powers that be, when you're dealing with the BlackRocks and everything, they're doing it for bottom line. This kind of what's kind of scary about what you said is what is stopping BlackRock, Fidelity, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and everybody else getting together and say, yeah, let's use a different type of Bitcoin. Let's use a different fork. Let's use this one. Even if the hardcore community doesn't agree with it, so what? The people who are doing our ETFs have no clue. So like you said, what do they do? Actually switch over to a BSV or to a fork or to something else.
King asked a very good question here, and that reminds me, definitely go over to the Gentleman of Crypto and like and subscribe, guys. And I'll give you the name of this video too, so you can watch the whole one. It's Bitcoin at the High, Gemini, Juggernaut, and Travala on Gentleman of Crypto. Like, what if they just decided to choose BSV? Oh, shoot. Okay, I know kind of right where we were.
No worries.
I think it was around.
I have businesses to run. Okay, what's going to happen is I'm probably, I have my feminine side, but I don't use them.
Crap. So sorry, guys. I got to find back where we were.
You're human? Are you kidding me?
Bitcoin is like an overarching, technology. Because remember, don't believe Gary Gensler and SEC, right? These are not securities. More money purchasing IP packets, internet protocol packets, which is a little bits of information that allow this conversation to happen through the internet or sending emails, or would you make more money owning the actual technology itself, the internet? If you own the internet, everybody using the internet owes you money. Facebook, Amazon, Google, the whole nine. Or
So-
you could trade internet packets back and forth.
Bitcoin to BSV, you would essentially be, for one,
Right. Okay. What's going to happen is, but I don't use them when I'm investing. I don't use them when I'm doing business.
So now, do you see that being possible at all?
Not is it possible. Look at the video I posted when I do the screenshot of the BlackRock ETF prospectus. Just take a look at what they say they can do if they feel one flavor is superior to another. And that's even if the custodian and the clients disagree. It's already written down. The lawyers already took care of it.
Yep. So he gets into King asked the question, what if they decided to choose another thing is Bitcoin? And Reggie says he refers back to the way that BlackRock wrote their ETF application. He said, yeah, not only is it possible, they wrote it in the application that they can do that they can choose another Bitcoin as Bitcoin, even no matter what the public sentiment is.
You're
Even
right.
if the public sentiment says they think that BTC is Bitcoin, they can still choose BSV.
Yeah, actually, Craig Wright mentioned that in a couple, addresses that he did, at some of the, I think it was like the master classes that he did in the past. He mentioned some of the things we were just talking about.
Right. So yes, like they can. So let's just go back a little bit here and continue.
Of the internet. If you own the internet, everybody who uses the internet owes you money. Facebook, Amazon, Google, the whole nine. Or you could trade internet packets back and forth.
So the question is, my thing is, this is where it's like the 2 + 2 = 4 and all of it makes sense. But the powers that be, when you're dealing with the BlackRocks and everything, they're doing it for bottom line. This the kind of what also was kind of scary about what you said is what is stopping BlackRock, Fidelity, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and everybody else getting together and say, yeah, let's use a different type of Bitcoin. Let's use a different fork. Let's use this one, even if the hardcore community doesn't agree with it. So what? The people who are doing their ETFs have no clue. So like you said, what do they do? Actually switch over to a BSV or to a fork or to something else. Do you see that being possible at all?
Not is it possible. Look at the video I posted when I do the screenshot of the BlackRock ETF prospectus. Just take a look at what they say they can do if they feel one flavor is superior to another. And that's even if the custodian and the clients disagree. It's already written down. The lawyers already took care of this. And
So
I have a lot more
basically-
stuff. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I read, other people don't. I have a lot of emotions, I have my feminine side, but I don't use them when I'm investing. I don't use them when I'm doing business. Very bad idea. So you want to sit there and decide, I like this person, I don't like that person, especially a person you don't even know, based upon stuff you're getting from the media. And I'm not backing Craig Wright. I could care less about Craig Wright. And this is not a negative thing, okay? But, I have businesses to run, okay? What's going to happen is I'm considering it. I'm going to drop another video showing how Bitcoin itself is patented. Yes, Bitcoin. And more than once. And by more than one entity. Yeah. Reading is fundamental. Remember those commercials back in like the 80s and 90s?
Good old dog.
Reading is fundamental, man.
So essentially what you're saying is that your favorite character in that Batman Beyond or whatever Returns movie was the Joker because he just wanted to see shit burn. Reggie gets the piece of box first and he just cuts a big circle in the middle and eats that motherfucker. So y'all can have a rest.
What's crazy about that is, as far as the movement from Bitcoin to BSV, you would essentially be, for one, it would be able to move faster, the transfers, but you'll basically be able to buy $110 Bitcoin. Now, think about the old geezers who don't have any clue about investment with ETF, and they say, oh, well, we have another version of Bitcoin that's faster, and it actually is cheaper, and they can pump the price from $100, because that's what BSV is now, it's like 110. Imagine going from, with Bitcoin, 70,000 to 200. They're like, cool, that's a 3X. Now, imagine going from $110 to 2,500. That's going to look a lot different as far as portfolio-wise, and that's all they're going to see is because it's cash in and cash out. So they
it's really huge to hear Bitcoin Zay acknowledge the improvements of or how much better BSV's technology is than Bitcoin. So that's really huge to hear him say that. And then look at it from the perspective of, like he said, a geezer that just has no idea about Bitcoin or whatever. It's like, okay, this is the superior technology and it's faster and it's cheaper. Okay, I'm just going to buy that then, right? So again, not telling you to buy BSV or anything like that, but you can't ignore these things. These things can't be ignored. And let's go right back and continue playing.
Showing how Bitcoin itself is patented. Yes, Bitcoin. And more than once. And by more than one entity. Yeah. Reading is fundamental. Remember those commercials back in like the 80s and 90s?
Good old dog.
Reading is fundamental, man.
So essentially what you're saying is that your favorite character in that Batman Beyond or whatever Returns movie was the Joker because he just wanted to see shit burn. Reggie gets the piece of box first and he just cuts a big circle in the middle and eats that motherfucker. So y'all can have a rest.
What's crazy about that is, as far as the movement from Bitcoin to BSV, you would essentially be, for one, it would be able to move faster, the transfers, but you basically be able to buy $110 Bitcoin. Now think about the old geezers who don't have any clue about investment with ETF, and they say, oh, well, we have another version of Bitcoin that's faster, and it actually is cheaper, and they can pump the price from $100 because that's what BSV is now. It's like 110. Imagine going from, with Bitcoin, 70,000 to 200. They're like, cool, that's a 3x. Now imagine going from $110 to 2,500. That's gonna look a lot different as far as portfolio wise, and that's all they're gonna see is because it's cash in and cash out. So if they switch to BSV, they can say, hey, it's faster. We can transfer it cheaper for ourselves, so it's cheaper for you, less fees, and you get more of an increase in price. They're gonna fall for a hook, line, and sinker, and they're not gonna have as much Bitcoin on the books. I know people keep saying they're gonna run out of Bitcoins. Like, no, they're not. They have plenty of ways around that. So that's basically what I'm thinking as far as their strategy long term, as far as keeping this game going.
Yeah, and here's some disclaimers. Okay, I don't have anything for or against Craig Wright. Could care less. I don't care if he's Satoshi. I have no idea why everybody's consuming so many brain cycles with something that's, in my opinion, relatively useless, considering the fact you have real things on the horizon. I don't own a single BSV. You said it was 110. I didn't even know. Okay, I don't own one. Can't say I really care. And as for things burning to the ground, this is how the technology industry works in the US, okay, and most developed nations, okay? The problem is, right, you did not have business people and finance people in the beginning, okay?
Right.
So they didn't do the
I
thing,
point that out
right?
early. They know it. I was like, it was no business people in this thing until mid to late 2017 when the first one showed up for the most part.
And now they're coming in after the fact, and there are all these misconceptions. A lot of people say, well, Bitcoin's open source. You can't patent anything that's open source. You can patent anything that you invent that's novel, right, innovative, and hasn't been done before, okay? And that's value. Not anything. There's certain things that are hard to patent, like certain algorithms, etc. I'm not going to go into patent law. And I'm not a lawyer, by the way, not a technologist. My only full-time occupation is I'm a father, and even that, my kids are getting older. But I read. Okay, so going forward from this, when patents start to become ubiquitous and you have clarity and ownership, then you can do things for real. You can open source anything. I went through this before. I told you last time I was online, Ken, you're moving, right? So let's suppose you bought or rented your new apartment. I could get there before you, after you paid for it. And I get in there, I just open source it. And I have all the pretty girls move in. I take my big ashy feet, put them on your dining room table. Okay. And I invite everybody else to move in. I invite Zay to move in, his family, his next door neighbor. I'm not charging anybody. It's all open source. I just open source King's apartment. But you see, King has either a lease or a deed to that apartment. And it wasn't mine to open source in the first place. But I still open sourced it. That doesn't make it legal or right because it didn't belong to me. If you open source something that belongs to you, it may very well be open source, but it's still illegal. It wasn't mine. So if someone has an idea, it's unique, novel, and they patent it, the idea belongs to them. If someone else comes in 5 years later and writes software on it and open sources it, that doesn't make it legit. It wasn't theirs. I could steal your car and make a free Uber and just give everybody free rides. It's still a stolen car. In order to open source something properly, you have to own it. So if you believe in open source, true open source, you believe in IP rights and IP protection. So you can't disbelieve patents, but believe open source. It's just a fact. This is how the law works. How do I know this? I'm not a lawyer. I read. Okay. And the theories behind patents are ensconced in, if I'm not mistaken, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Goes all the way back to the beginning. I think it's the 14th. You look that up, but it's in there somewhere.
Really quick, folks. I'm seeing everybody talk price action 70K. Listen, and this is how it happens. This is how it happens. I keep asking, where is everyone seeing 70K? I'm only seeing 69 and some change. People are saying Robinhood and Coinbase. Really? Y'all giving me Robinhood and Coinbase as the two price indicators you're getting it from? No, stop looking at those people.
Okay, I think this goes into so I think that's what we wanted to hear there, but that was very huge coming from Reggie, the patent holder of DeFi. And again, he doesn't seem to care very much about if Craig Wright is Satoshi or not. To him, it doesn't matter. What only matters is the patent, the IP, and that InChain owns a lot of IP that they can literally kind of force, if you will, the use of BSV instead of Bitcoin. That's pretty huge.
Just take a moment to reflect on it just for a brief moment, because I got to get going here soon too. I got to pick up this kid from my recital practice. So my thing is this. How much time did we put so much emphasis on the concept of IPv6? So back to what Reggie Milton and his crew was talking about. It's like, again, the patents, right? We understand that right now, even on my computer, I could hook up to IPv6, who can't? But it's expanding on IPv6. We talk about Web3 and scaling up. How do you take IPv6 technology and you take it to the next level? Having exclusive patents tied into, for example, what, Bitcoin, the original, real true Bitcoin is supposed to be, let's face it, put our emotions aside, does all roads point to BSV, then it's like, centralized control was Web 1. Look how that turned out. Again, realize the whole concept of having events. Having events are designed specifically, according to Satoshi Nakamoto, to do what? So your centralized entities don't have control over the whole supply to do also what Reggie Milton was talking about. So if Satoshi Nakamoto would have set it up in which there was no halving events, and let's face it, the next one's coming up here very soon, 30 days and so on, it would have allowed your Rothschilds and all these other, big centralized money that's been controlling all this for hundreds of years, apparently, to just say, you know what? This is not really worth this much, technically speaking, but we're going to mark it up to wherever the hell we want to. And here's what we're going to sell it to you for because we control it all. Say what you want. Bitcoin's designed to be a peer-to-peer cash or a peer-to-peer system that decentralizes the whole thing. It's actually beautiful if you think about the whole model behind it. But again, back to the whole thing of which horse are you going to bet on? If I'm a Maxi of BTC, which I'm not, this would bug the living hell out of me, and I would put my emotions aside. I would say I need an insurance policy. Do we see enough volume to create that? Well, I'm not going to talk about that all day, but that's just my perspective.
Yeah. And don't forget, there's a wallet out there that's like hoarding BSV. Nobody knows who it is, but it has over like 1.5 million BSV tokens in it.
Yeah, that's something to think about too.
Who is it? Why are they hoarding that much? And it can't be somebody that's like, there's not too many people running around with enough money to afford 1.5 million BSV tokens.
Exactly. Unless they're maybe the real McCoy, the original dude. Anyway. All right. Rue, excellent content tonight, man. You knocked it out of the park, man. I would say this is like a grand slam as far as research. Guys, understand the people that are you're very welcome. Understand the very underrated channels that are in this space. I want to state this. There's a lot of people that tuned in consistently to this show. You are more than appreciated. Thank you for being part of our community. Thank you to other researchers that want to be part of a research consortium, right? I think that's what we should refer to it as. Yeah. We bring you guys solid research because we believe in the utilities that we're invested into that are obviously digital assets. Brother Rue here has his own channel. We're going to give him a plug once again before we end the show. And here he can be followed over on his platform on YouTube. Come on, 1.65K subscribers. Rue deserves way more subs. He don't give you the fluff. He takes the time to break down the deep dive research. And we all appreciate that. That's why you're tuned in. He can be followed over at Black Rue, BLACKRUE. He can also be followed over on the X platform. Why point at the X platform? People in our space deserve recognition just as much as the next guy. And I am proud to say, and Ruben and I talked about this, and that is we are looking to do more of these collaborations together. So get to know my fellow brother, Rue Black, a little bit better because you're going to see a lot more of them. Yes, you're going to see a lot more of them.